fast and come in. Take out your volume. We'll have to complete with few questions first. Give your volume. You have your volume? Volume too. Take out your volume, all of you. Give one pencil or pen. Give me. Fast. Pencil dena. All of you take out your volume. Turn to page 167. Turn to page 167. Take the questions that you're going to write now, that you're going to try now, answering number 5, page 167, number 5. 167, number 5. What happens? Share karo na. None of this entire row, nobody else. You also don't have volume. दोनों लाना है. Number 5, number 6, page 167, 5 and 6. Go to the next page. Page number 167, 5 and 6. 168, question number 10. Go to the next. 169. Question number 11. Question number 11. Go to the next. Page 170. Page 170. Question number 7 is already done. So number 8. Number 8. Number 9, go to the next, page 171, number 9. Number 10 is already given. I gave you the answer already, number 10. Number 10 is already done. Only 10 sub number 2. Okay, no, that also is a repeat question, so we are not writing it again. So number 9 to be done, 10 is done. Go there, nutrition here. No, we are not doing this. You go to now nutrition part again, 171. Go to the nutrition part, 171. 27, last question. 27, 171, 27, respiration. 27, 1. 172, 27, 2. 27, 2. 28 is also answered. Okay, for nutrition, 172. For nutrition, number 1. 1 के सब numbers है, A, B, C, all the 3 have to answer. Number 2. Number 2. Okay, till here you are going to complete now. So start from page 167. Start from there. 5 and 6. 167 respiratory system questions are there. 5 and 6. Start karo. Some questions are there which I will give you the answers. This is volume 1, right? Volume 1 है. Some questions I will give you the answers. 2 या 3 ही question है जिसके आंसर मैं दे रही हूँ. बाकी you try start answer. Next. Chalo, do it fast. We'll have to start with the next part of the chapter. The MCQ questions you will take in the volume itself, and the rest of the questions where the answers have to be written. Write down the question in the notebook and then the answer. Numbers लिखना नहीं है खाली.
Which page number you mark?
167 से ना सारा मार्क किया मैंने, चेक करो. 167 से 167, number 5. Look into the first two questions. I will ask you, give reasons. We will discuss together. Some of them I'll give you the answers.
What is chest cavity?
A space inside the ribs.
It largens when we inhale, right?
It increases. The space
Maybe
increases.
largens. वो तो सही है. Second third fourth सही है. Ma'am, as we inhale the diaphragm, it becomes like this or
Diaphragm will become flat when we inhale. Diaphragm will become flat.
the chest cavity raises up.
The ribs moves forward, upward. See there, number 5. Number A, the part A. What is part A? Diaphragm. Volume में लिख के रखो. What is A? Diaphragm लिख के रखो. Now let us check the statements. What is true? You have to mark what is correct. It helps to diaphragm, helps to decrease the residual volume of air in the lungs. Diaphragm helps to decrease. Option A. No. First of all, let us try to understand the statements. Number 1, if you see diaphragm, so with reference to A, you will have to check all the statements. Number 1, helps to decrease residual volume. No, it has nothing to do. Flattens when we inhale, that is correct. Gets raised as we inhale, that's wrong. Wrong. Number 3 is wrong. Number 4, helps the chest cavity to become larger. Yes. So the second and the fourth are correct. So second and fourth कहाँ पे है? Number C.
Ma'am, first is also correct, right?
क्यों first correct है? Helps to decrease residual volume. No. The second and the fourth statements are correct. Read very carefully.
Ma'am, the large amount of water flows out of the lung.
Go to number 10. Number 10, I had asked you to answer.
Yes. अबे लंग जो ब्लड ऑक्सीजनेटेड होता है हार्ट से
Now look into number 10. All of you read number 10.
हम डी डी ना डी
Okay. A fish were comparing. Okay. You all read the statements. Read properly. You are comparing the fish and the human, lungs and the gills. So see the first statement, both are present internally on the animal's body. Both are internally? No. The gills are present externally on the surface of the body. Okay. Number 2. Both have thin moist surface for gaseous exchange. Both have thin moist surfaces for gaseous exchange. But we have our lungs also thin moist surfaces for gaseous exchange. Alveolus have. Alveolus wall is very thin and it is moist also. It is moist also. That's the reason gaseous exchange is possible. Then both are poorly supplied. No, that is wrong. Number D, in both the blood returns to the heart after oxygenation. So the statements B and D are true there. Correct.
तो both of them
Those statements वहाँ पे correct है. Now there must be some printing error, but if you go by the statements, number B and D both are correct. Both have thin and moist surfaces, and the blood returns to the heart after being oxygenated. Okay. Number 11, you should be B and D. B and D. 11, you should be able to do
C.
Percentage. Yes. Percentage of carbon dioxide more in the exhaled air. It is almost about 4%. Fermentation occurs in the presence of carbon dioxide. It is in the absence of oxygen, but not in the presence of carbon dioxide also. So fermentation never occurs in the presence of carbon dioxide also. That is also wrong. Number 11, complete karo. Then go to the next page.
What is?
What is?
Nothing.
Number 6, I asked you what? Number 6, did I ask you 170? Number 6?
No.
170 number 6 भी करना है respiration का question. 170 number 6 also to do. 170 number 6 also to do. 170 page number 170 question number 6 करो. Number 6, the breakdown of glucose has taken the following pathway. Glucose to pyruvate. Where will this process happen? What is this process? Glucose to pyruvate plus energy. Where will this happen?
Glucose from pyruvate from and oxygen.
Glucose to pyruvate. So what should be A? Where is this process happening? Cytoplasm. And pyruvate energy to lactic acid. Where is this happening?
Muscles. Oxygen deficient
Ah, location you have to write. So muscles. So which option is correct now?
deficient.
Cytoplasm and oxygen deficient muscle cells. Option D is correct. All of you read the questions and think. Try to apply what you have studied.
अच्छा ये हम anaerobic
Number 6 done, all of you.
reaction means like we have to write the chemical formula or the name.
In the form of an equation you have to write. Okay, which one?
Oh, 11th A. 11th A.
Write down the reaction.
Sorry, 8th A.
Write down the reaction. Number 8. Number 8. Wait.
Reaction बोल रही है तो
Write the mechanism. Mechanism. Write the reaction that occurs when glucose. Now reaction meaning you have to write down the entire reaction with arrows. Number 6 done. All of you are done with number 6. Done. Which one? Number 6. Number 6 के बाद number 7. Did I ask you number 7? Number 8. Write the equation that occurs when glucose breaks down anaerobically. Which one to write?
2C2H5.
Ethanol वाला reaction लिखना है. लिखो. All of you. Confusion है. एक बार देखो. Then you try writing on your own. Mechanism by which this answer I will give. Fishes. Fishes, gills, that concept I'll have to give you. That we have. That's a small concept only that we have. So number 8A पहले complete करो. All of you write down the reaction again. Number 8A. All of you will write down that reaction in your notebook. लिखो 8A complete करो पहले.
Nutrition.
अच्छा पहले 8A complete करो. Done. Okay. Now let us go to 8B. 8A done. All of you, did you write? फिर से शुरू हो गया. Then दोनों का come here. Come here, come here. You are not doing any work. You are together, but you are not doing any work when you are together. So better come here. You can see questions from his book also.
What is the type of nutrition found in green plants? She is giving me doubts.
पूरा स्टोरी खत्म होने के बाद इस क्वेश्चन ने will ask me. What is the process of nutrition in green plants? अभी मुझे तुमको पूछना है.
मैंने बोला था.
इसको क्या हो रहा है अभी?
और इसको दोबारा पढ़ रहे हैं. The question is name the process and explain the type of nutrition. हाँ मैं भी वही.
Process is, what is the question? Which one?
9A.
Name the process and explain the type of nutrition found in green plants. Name the process, photosynthesis. Explain the type, autotrophic.
अरे तो ठीक है ना, ठीक है ना.
Both of you equally confused. है ना?
देखा.
हाँ, decide. चलो अभी लिखो फटाफट. All of you will write this answers. You are so confused. चलो number 7 की नहीं, number 7 I did not give it. Number 6 all of you done. Number 8B लिखो अभी. Number 8B write down the question. 8B question लिखो.
Question
8B question लिखो. Page number 170. Write down question number 8B. Question लिखना है. Don't write down the number only. अभी ये करने के बाद before transportation मुझे लग रहा है I have to take a test. क्योंकि मेरी कहानी तो धीरे धीरे खत्म हो जाएगी. I don't know how much you all are studying. We are finishing topics one by one, one by one. By the end of the month, this chapter will be done. And this is the chapter with maximum weightage. 4 major parts of the chapter to study. But I don't think anybody has started. Write the mechanism by which fishes breathe in water, right?
Yes.
Fishes have.
1 minutes.
Fishes have gills. Fishes have gills as the primary respiratory organ. Fishes have gills as the primary respiratory organ. Full stop.
Main organ.
Gills are as the primary respiratory organ. Translation नहीं चाहिए इसमें लिखो. As the primary respiratory organ. Full stop. Gills are thin-walled, moist, and extensively supplied with blood vessels. Extensively supplied with blood vessels. Full stop. As the water rushes through the gills, the dissolved oxygen diffuses into the blood vessel. Dissolved oxygen diffuses into the blood vessel. And forms temporary compound in the blood. They also have hemoglobin, but the composition is not exactly the same. Forms temporary compound in the blood. Full stop. The oxygen enters the body cells from the blood, which in turn releases carbon dioxide, which is brought by the blood to the gills, which diffuses, brought by the blood to the gills, which diffuses into the water. So what you have written down, remember that when we are talking about the gills, where are the gills present? For the fishes, always on the surface of the water. Now every time when the water rushes in, so how would the water rush in case of a fish? If I think the water is always rushing in through the mouth and going out by the gills. So when the water rushes in, the dissolved oxygen in the water would be taken up by the blood vessels surrounding the gills. This blood, which has picked up oxygen from the water, gives it to the body cells, and from the body cells gets the carbon dioxide, and again from the blood the carbon dioxide will be given into the water. The water is out of the body, the carbon dioxide releases out. So that is their simple mechanism of exchange of gases, breathing. So this is about the gills. Little bit you'll have to write down. Now complete with number C. Write down number C. Name the balloon-like structures present in the lungs. Alveoli. Two functions to write. What to write? Two functions. नहीं, खाली function लिखना है. Only two functions to write.
gaseous exchange,
has a large amount of oxygen in it.
stores oxygen.
Gaseous exchange and storing, that will be the same thing. So when we are talking about the functions of the lungs, what is the function of the lungs? What is the function of the
Thin wall and richly supplied with blood vessels.
तो ये तो structure हो गया. This is the structure. Function पूछा है. Only two functions to write down. You are writing exchange of gases, but the exchange of gases, and at the end of respiration, what is the other byproduct? At the end of respiration, what is the other byproduct?
Carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide is the primary product. What is the byproduct? क्या है? Water. How do we understand that respiration also gives away water? How are we confirmed that respiration is a process which releases water? By the process of exhalation, we can easily understand. If you are exhaling, say suppose if you are exhaling on the glass pane or any glass surfaces you are exhaling, did you ever observe that the entire small patch becomes little bit foggy with water vapor so much? So that is a very clear demonstration to understand that respiration releases water in the form of vapor. So what is this lungs doing? We had been so far only talking about oxygen and carbon dioxide. We did not talk about water at all. But does respiration also release water as a byproduct? Yes, water in the form of vapor, and that is also diffused out by the lungs. So diffusion भी तो by the alveolus ही हो रहा है. So write down the two functions there. List two functions of the alveolus. This you can write separately in your notebook. In your notebook, you write down list two functions of alveolus. Structure you already know, the thin wall and the blood vessels. Now the functions are what? List two functions of the alveolus, right? Number one, the first function of alveolus, write down. Number one, the thin membranes of the alveolus. The thin membranes of the alveolus helps in diffusion of oxygen towards the blood and diffusion of carbon dioxide from the blood towards the alveolus. From the blood towards the alveolus. Number two,
Diffusion of CO2
from the blood towards the alveolus. So that is the first point. Second point you write, diffusion of water. Diffusion of water in the form of vapor. Diffusion of water in the form of vapor. Number D you know already. Number D what to write? Name the respiratory pigment and write its role. Respiratory pigment is hemoglobin. Write its role. Role what to write? What is its role? Role क्या लिखेंगे? Binds with respiratory gases. So it brings about exchange of gases. So that only you can write. That only to be written there. So what is the name of the respiratory pigment? Hemoglobin. Role क्या है? Exchange of respiratory gases. Exchange of respiratory gases. Exchange of respiratory gases. Now, number 9 is done. Number 9 I gave you. No. Yeah, दिया था.
Yes.
Number 9 नहीं दिया था. Number 10
we did. And 9.
You did. 3 even, that is a straight question. Number 10 done already. Number 11, 12 I did not give you. Now which question else I gave you from this page?
27. Question number 27. नीचे 24 below. Respiration 170, page number 171, question number 27.
27 I gave you. 27 लिखो. Why is respiratory pigment needed in multicellular organisms? क्या लगता है? Why it should be needed? Are we multicellular organisms? Yes, complex and top of that. So if I talk about ourselves and if I talk about multicellular but a simple organism, say suppose a hydra, say suppose a sponge, say suppose a jellyfish in the water. हम दोनों में difference क्या है? The jellyfish can swim, we cannot swim. We cannot swim. So now, what is the difference? Tell me. What is the difference between two multicellular organisms? Jellyfish भी multicellular है, and a fish also is multicellular. Human also multicellular. Difference क्या है? अच्छा, अभी respiratory pigment पे base लिखना है.
Different respiratory organs.
नहीं, with reference to respiratory pigment बोलो. I am saying jellyfish and a fish. Fish complex है. It's very complex. It has respiratory pigment. Jellyfish multicellular है but not very complex. So that's why it does not have a respiratory pigment. So when I talk about a respiratory pigment, why should organisms which are complex should have a respiratory pigment? That is the question. Organisms multicellular है, complex है, that's the reason it has a respiratory pigment. What is the need? The need is, I talk about a fish, I talk about any vertebrate, I am talking about human, we all are complex multicellular. But I parallelly gave you some examples. I gave you some examples, that is the jellyfish, that is also multicellular. The jellyfish is also multicellular, hydra, that is also multicellular, but do they have any pigment in their body? No, they don't have any pigment in their body. Why? How come they are able to manage without the pigment? Because they don't have complex organs and tissues. They just have simple few cells. Organs, systems, nahi hai. So if an organism has large number of systems and cells, then a pigment should be there carrying oxygen from one part of the body to the other.
But they have high nervous system.
Where?
Well developed.
कहाँ पे?
In jellyfish.
Nervous system? No, they don't have a nervous system at all. They only have got few neurons. That also the neurons are not meant for sensation, only for detecting light. So nervous system, we cannot say that is the nervous system. So when we are talking about all these complex, all these simple but multicellular, they are multicellular. I talk about human, I talk about fish. Are they both of the same complexity? No, है तो multicellular दोनों, but complexity same नहीं है. So this way, always try to remember that if it is a multicellular, huge number of organs, cells, so many systems, then there is a need for a pigment always. Let us write the answer there. Why is respiratory pigment needed in multicellular organisms with large body size? Because with large body size. With large body size, मतलब ये समझ में आना चाहिए that the body has got systems and organs. So for functioning, a pigment always should be carrying oxygen, right? In multicellular organisms, with large body size, specific respiratory pigment like hemoglobin is essential is essential to carry or transport oxygen, to every single tissue, to transport oxygen to every single tissue and cell of the body. To transport oxygen to every single tissue and cell of the body. Full stop. These organisms require oxygen to release energy. These organisms require oxygen to release energy to carry out the complex body functions. Okay, now that we are talking about respiratory pigment, little bit more that you should know. Respiratory pigment, we have respiratory pigment which is red in color. Is it possible respiratory pigments are of different colors? Yes. Yes. If I talk about
White.
no, not white blood cells. When I say respiratory pigment for us is in the RBC, red in color. But if I talk about certain animal forms, like if I talk about the insects, do they have respiratory pigment? They are simpler as compared to us. उनके body में भी respiratory pigment है, but that is not red like hemoglobin, or that is not hemoglobin. So they also have got some other type of a respiratory pigment which may be yellowish in color. Some organisms have got greenish, bluish respiratory pigments. So if I talk about the insects, if I talk about certain type of invertebrates, if I talk about the snails and all these different type of aquatic organisms also, there are so many different type of organisms which has a body pigment, which has a respiratory pigment, but not necessarily red or not necessarily hemoglobin. So that is also there. 172. Let us go to the give reason questions now. The first one, let us start. Now all these give reasons you will write in your notebook. Give reason question number 2, sub number A.
You will read the question.
Question के साथ लिखो. So very reference during the exam. The exam of course you will not keep on searching the question of the book. Rings of cartilage are present in the throat. Now present in the throat, instead of throat you write down trachea. Instead of throat write down trachea. Answer. During forceful exhalation. During exhalation. To prevent. लिखो पहले question लिखो. All of you will write down the question and the answer together there. Question लिखो and then the answer. Try framing your own answer to prevent collapsing of the trachea after forceful exhalation. Avoid, yeah, prevent collapsing of the trachea after forceful exhalation. Go to the next. Okay, now that every time we take in air, we breathe out, we exhale. What do you think? After exhalation, is our lungs empty? Lungs are becoming empty? No. So the small amount of air which is always there in the lungs, even when we are exhaling every time, the lungs never they are empty. A small amount of air is always there in the lungs. How much of the air? Almost about 500 ml of air is there in the lungs. This 500 ml of air which is there in the lungs, how much of the air we can maximally take it? Individually, if you are talking about one single lung can hold maximally about 3000 ml of the air. So every time that we give out, exhale, every time that we give out air, exhalation, uske baad bhi 500 ml of air is always there in the lungs, and this is what is known as residual volume. तो अगर lungs empty हो जाता, then what would have happened? और अगर ये residual volume है, so what is the benefit? Benefit क्या है? Residual air क्यों होना चाहिए? If the lungs is empty, तो क्या होता problem? Lungs अगर empty हो जाता, internal organs सब एक साथ आ जाते.
No, the organs inside the lungs.
The lungs के साथ कौन से organ? Organs, try to understand. Lungs, the entire structure that we had studied. Where is the lungs present in our chest cavity? When we are talking about the lungs, a pair of spongy structures hai. The diagram देखो, a pair of spongy structures hai. So when I am talking about this pair of spongy structure, just think you are exhaling out. And it is understood, exhalation के बाद also the lungs are not squeezed out. उसमें थोड़ा सा air अभी भी है, squeezed है, but थोड़ा सा air अभी भी है. So ये जो 500 ml of air which is still there in the lungs, what is the benefit, can you think? This process should never stop. This process should go on. We are exhaling, lungs में अभी ज़्यादा air आ गया, the process is faster. We are exhaling for a fraction of a second, this process is थोड़ा सा slow हो गया, but stop कभी नहीं होगा. Gaseous exchange कभी भी stop नहीं हो सकता. So what is residual air I told you just now? Residual air is the amount of air which is present in the lungs even after exhalation. Write down that question first. Let us try answering. What is residual air? First of all, that you'll have to remember. The blood vessels surrounding the lungs. Very clear, you should be remembering all these features. Write down that question. Remember the structure of the lungs that I am showing you again. The structure of the lungs and all these parts should be very, very clear. Likho pehle. Let us complete with this, then I'll show you. Lungs always contain residual volume. It can be massively, it is because of lack of oxygen. Say suppose a person is drowning. A person is dying because of getting drowned in the water. A person is dying because of a massive accident. If these are the cases, then what's happening? Blood vessels, heart. If there's a major injury to these parts of the body, then there's a rapid cut down in the oxygen supply to the body tissues. So definitely the person will collapse. Drowning, strangulation, all these cases, what's happening? Massive cut down in the oxygen supply to the body parts. But the reasons for death are many. But massive cut down, rapid cut down of oxygen to vital parts of the body is definitely a reason why a person may collapse. But बाकी भी बहुत सारे reasons हो सकते हैं when we are talking about the nervous issues and the improper functioning of the kidneys and etc. etc. Answer लिखो. The small amount of air that is left in the lungs, the small amount of air that is left in the lungs, within bracket, about 500 ml. about 500 ml, even after forceful exhalation, is known as residual volume. Full stop. The presence of the residual air allows exchange of gases happen continuously. Allows the exchange of gases happen continuously. Number C, you should know the answer. Dekho, read the question. Reason क्या है? Reason लिखना है. Why does the diaphragm flatten and the ribs become little bit lifted up? Why? Reason क्या है? When we breathe in, ये दो जो prominent changes body में हो रहा है, that is because of what? Increase the space of the chest cavity. Increase the space of the chest cavity. लिखो next. लिखा? The answer is diaphragm flattens and ribs are lifted up to increase the space of the chest cavity. And allow atmospheric air fill into the lungs. Number D. Fill into the lungs. क्या है आंसर? आंसर क्या है? Walls of alveoli contain extensive network of blood vessels. क्यों? Why should the alveoli have so much of blood vessels surrounding? See here, I'm showing you this again. To allow the process of diffusion of respiratory gases. So अगर blood vessels आसपास नहीं होगा, then from where? How will the oxygen move from the alveolus? Where will it go? Blood है, so that's the reason oxygen very much can straight away diffuse into the blood. लिखो answer. Walls of alveoli contain extensive network of blood vessels. Answer. The extensive network of blood vessels help. Extensive network of blood vessels help in the diffusion of oxygen. From the alveolus towards the blood and towards the blood and carbon dioxide. क्या लिखेंगे? Carbon dioxide from
blood
alveolus. Carbon dioxide from the blood towards the alveolus. Nutrition number 1 karo fast. I gave you that, no? 172 number 1 baki hai number 1 and 2 karo fast. Number 1 and 2 there was one question.
We did the first one.
Number 1 done.
Yes.
Name and define the process, write down the chemical equation, that is done. Number C was not done, I suppose, right? C ne kiya tha na, that question you write down separately in your notebook. That is little bit a different concept. Now here nutrition, the basic, whatever is there in your syllabus, everything is done, but in your book there is just one line mentioned about the desert plants. Desert plants. Now, when we are talking about photosynthesis, all the entire concept of photosynthesis we have studied. What is the role of stomata in photosynthesis? Exchange of gases. तो स्टोमाटा का रोल क्या है फोटोसिंथेसिस में? टू टेक इन कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड. And stomata in all these terrestrial plants. Now these are all land plants that I'm talking about, right? I talk about the mango and the hibiscus and the lotus and all these. These are all terrestrial plants. So terrestrial plants में common feature क्या है? Stomata open during the day. Stomata is majorly open during the day. That is what you have learned so far. Why is the stomata open during the day? What is the reason stomata is open during the day? क्या लिखोगे? Why is the stomata open during the day? Stomata is open during the day and closed at night. This is what already you have studied. Because of sunlight क्या हो रहा है? Because of sunlight क्या हो रहा है in the guard cells? Intake of water and guard cells का क्या relation क्या है? कौन बोलेगा? याद है कुछ? Opening and closing of the stomata, did we study?
Yes.
Process क्या था? Method क्या था? Basic concept याद है? During the daytime guard cell में क्या हो रहा है? Why is it filled with water? क्यों हो रहा है? Guard cell is giving sunlight.
They undergo
Receiving sunlight. हाँ, guard cell is receiving sunlight. वो गलत नहीं है.
Guard cells in the morning they have pigment chloroplast which undergoes the process
Absorb sunlight,
and undergoes the process
photosynthesis, and then photosynthesis के बाद
glucose
they will prepare glucose
which dissolves in the cell sap.
in the cell sap of the guard cells, and then the guard cells will become hypertonic. So they will absorb water from the surrounding cells. So that means already you have studied guard cells remain open during the day. Why? Because of higher rate of photosynthesis during the day. But desert plants may, when I talk about, give me one example of a desert plant. Cactus. So if I talk about this type of cactuses and the different types of plants, the orchids and the cactus, they also have got stomata. But these type of plants, the desert plants, they should have some adaptation. They cannot give away so much of water. So they cannot give away so much of water. So what is their adaptation? Their adaptation is that they have stomata that is closed during the daytime, open at night. That is their adaptation. Why do they show such type of an adaptation? So that they can conserve the water. They can conserve water.
Intermediate which is acted upon by the energy absorbed by the chlorophyll.
So there are, the process is a bit different when we are talking about, see now when we look into the basic concept that we had understood, the stomata and all these, Opening up of the stomata, closing up of the stomata is happening even in the cactus and in the mango and the hibiscus, but the method is little bit different. In this common type of plant that we see around, यहाँ पे photosynthesis is giving rise directly to glucose. I talk about a desert plant. In a desert plant, directly glucose नहीं बनेगा. Why? Because the stomata also behaves in a different way. The stomata does undergo the process of, the card cell does undergo the process of photosynthesis, but not directly form glucose. पहले एक intermediate product बनता है. Then that intermediate will get converted into glucose. So we will write a short answer on this. You should be knowing this. Write number 1, sub number C. लिखो. Write in, state in proper sequence events that occur in synthesis of food by desert plants. Synthesis of food, C, that is C sub number 1 है. 1C sub number 1. Write down that question. देखा? Write the answer. In desert plants, the stomata remains closed during the day and open at night. And because they cannot afford to remain open during the day. If they are opened up during the day, they will lose so much of water in the form of vapor. They will dry out. So that is a method to conserve the water. They open up only during the night for a short period of time, take in carbon dioxide, go on for the process of photosynthesis. So write down, they open at night, full stop. What did I say? The last
Close during the day and open at night.
Open at night, full stop. Next line. The guard cells become curved and the space between them widen to allow inward diffusion of carbon dioxide. Full stop. Next point, carbon dioxide.
Are these points?
You can write as points, or I'm giving you as different lines also you can write down. These are actually sequence. In the question they are asking you sequence of events to write. These are all detailed steps, just the basic points you write. Carbon dioxide dissolves in the cell sap. Carbon dioxide dissolves in the cell sap and is converted to an intermediate product known as malate or malic acid. Converted to an intermediate product, malate or malic acid. Full stop. Next line. Malic acid, when reacts with carbon dioxide, gets converted to other forms of carbohydrate Majorly glucose gets converted to other forms of carbohydrate, majorly glucose. Full stop. Last point, last line. Some amount of the glucose is transported by the phloem. Some amount of glucose is transported by the phloem. And the surplus amount is stored in the form of starch. Is stored in the form of starch. Okay. Now let us move on to the third segment of the chapter, that is transportation. Nutrition, respiration. Today again I have done little bit more, few more questions on photosynthesis, little bit of revision on the concept. So keep reading. The next class again I will give you few more questions on nutrition and respiration. You should be able to answer. Now the third part of this chapter, nutrition we are done, respiration we are done. Now we are talking about the third segment, that is transportation. We talk about transportation. What is transportation? Why transportation in a complex organism? Now, the concept of hemoglobin and all these again will be repeated here, but with some other context when we are talking about the heart and the blood. Yeah, well,
Someone came and went.
huh? Now, when we are talking about transportation, what is transportation? Why the need of transportation? So, we are talking about transportation में सबसे important what is the requisite? What are we to understand? A body fluid is very much necessary. What is the body fluid? What type of body fluids do we have? Blood is the primary body fluid. और क्या है? Blood is the primary body fluid. और क्या है? Water is the body fluid.
Plasma.
9th standard होके आया ना 10th में.
Plasma.
Body fluids that I am talking about. What are the body fluids that we have? Blood and last year tissues में पढ़ा ना. रिटेंशन कैपेसिटी तुम लोगों का माशाल्लाह मानना पड़ेगा. रिटेंशन कैपेसिटी कुछ खाया करो, कुछ लिया करो. Do something to retain things. 9th standard में पढ़ा and then you are forgetting. How possible? हाँ, tissues में पढ़ा ना. What are the two types of body fluid? Saliva, water and what not? नहीं, class में तो blood में आ गया. So what are the two types of body fluid that we have? Complex organisms like us. We have got two types of body fluid, blood and lymph. कभी सुना है इसके बारे में? What are you saying? No, you are saying. कभी सुना था इसके बारे में? Lymph.
Can you explain this small bit?
I'll explain everything. But याद रहेगा? सुनते नहीं हो, समझते नहीं. That's the reason you all don't remember anything. Now, when we are talking about blood, so first of all, transportation क्यों जरूरत है and why? How transportation? What are we talking about in this segment of the chapter? Transportation for a complex organism is very much necessary. Give reason. Body fluid complex organism में क्यों जरूरी है? In one of those questions I discussed also a little bit. Body fluid is present in the body of a bird. Does the bird has blood in its body? Yes, it has. Fishes have blood. Human has blood. All the developed organisms have blood. But there are so many multicellular organisms which does not have any body fluid. Again, I will talk about many organisms like the hydra and all these aquatic organisms. Jellyfish does not have a body fluid. वो multicellular है, but body fluid नहीं है. But the moment I think of a fish and a bird and a frog and a camel and human, हाँ body fluid है. तो जितना complexity बढ़ेगा, body fluid की जरूरत है. Why? This fluid will help in what? Transportation of what? Nutrients, transportation of hormones, transportation of minerals, ions, etc., etc. So now that we are talking about body fluid, major two types of body fluid that all complex organisms will have. The first one is blood. We talk about blood. What are the major components? Blood का composition क्या है? What is the composition of blood? What are the two major components of blood? The two major components, if I have to talk about, what is blood made up of? Blood is made up of the liquid part known as the plasma. And what is the type of cells, or what is the solid part of the blood known as? The solid part of the blood known as cells or corpuscles. Cells or corpuscles. So here I am talking about what is blood made up of. First of all, let us learn about blood, because lymph is formed from the blood. So I talk about the plasma, the composition of the cells. When we are talking about plasma, what is plasma? You get this as a question 1 mark. What is plasma? Plasma is the liquid part of the blood. What is this plasma made up of? It is composed of water. It has got different type of salts. It has got hormones dissolved in it. It has got various different type of proteins dissolved in it. All of you will write down the lecture points. No doing unnecessary things in the class. So when we are talking about the plasma, what is the definition? What is plasma? Plasma is a liquid part of the blood. Is it red in color? Is the plasma red in color? No, it is colorless. The plasma is colorless. And what is it? Dissolving inside. What is it dissolving in it? The liquid part. So many different type of proteins and enzymes. So many different type of respiratory gases, etc. Now, the cells, when we talk about the cells, what are the three types of cells? This you know, what are the three types of cells of the blood? Red blood cells, also known as the red blood corpuscles, RBCs. What next? WBCs. What is the third type of a cell? Third type of blood cell, what is it? Platelets. So the three types of blood cells that we talk about, the three type of blood cells are RBCs, WBCs, platelets. Now, functions for each one of them you should know, and one or two special features. So, if I talk about the RBCs, the WBCs, and the platelets, let us talk about the RBCs. What is one general feature of the RBCs? Does the RBC contain nucleus? About the RBCs, quite a lot in respiration you have studied. Function you know. What is the function to write for RBCs?
It contains oxygen.
RBCs?
RBCs.
Function क्या है? RBCs you have just now written for respiration. Transports oxygen and carbon dioxide. ये हो गया function. But then when we are talking about the structure of the RBC, just try to understand the cells, the blood cells. How do they look like? The different type of blood cells now that we are talking about. These are the RBCs. RBCs are small. They are disc shaped. They don't have nucleus. They are numerous in the plasma, numerous. And they don't have nucleus, but in absence of the nucleus, what is there in place of the nucleus? Hemoglobin. All these things just in the previous section you have studied. So about the RBCs, when I say these are the type of blood cells maximally present. Shape very small, disc shape, no nucleus, and hemoglobin present. So now function of the RBC is already known. So let me just write down few basic features of the RBCs. They don't have nucleus, always remember. They possess a respiratory pigment, and this respiratory pigment is known as hemoglobin. These RBCs that we are talking about, can they divide on their own. No, they cannot divide. These are exceptional cells of the body. That's the reason the word corpuscles. We can say either they are very specialized or they are peculiar also because they don't follow the rule of the normal cells of the body. So RBCs, they don't have nucleus, they are disc shaped. Functions you already know. About the WBC, see them in the figure. Can you see those purple colored cells bigger than the RBCs? So this WBCs, can you see the nucleus in them? Yes, it's a big large nucleus that they have.
Why do we call them white blood cells?
White blood cells because they are actually colorless, but this is only after you stain them. When we use certain type of a dye, coloring substance to observe them under the microscope, then only they will appear like this, bluish or purplish. Otherwise, they themselves don't have hemoglobin or any other pigment. They themselves are colorless. इसीलिए उनको अगर देखना है, WBC अगर देखना है in a slide under the microscope, so we have to stain them. तभी जाके दिखता है. So WBCs, one particular feature for WBCs, do they have nucleus? Yes, they possess nucleus. And apart from that, one feature about WBCs that you'll have to remember, they are amoeboid. All of you will take a note of this word. WBCs are amoeboid. Matlab, they can change shapes like an amoeba. What is the special feature of the WBCs? They are amoeboid cells. They can keep changing their shape so that they can move into the site of infection. Their job is what? To clear the germs in our body, give us immunity, give us resistance against diseases. So what is the concept of amoeboid when we are talking about? Amoeboid means what? Amoeboid, write down, all of you take a note of this. Why are WBCs known as amoeboid? They can change shapes. They can change shapes like an amoeba. So exactly like the amoeba can keep on changing its shape to grab food, the amoeba keeps on changing shape for grabbing the food from the surrounding, but the WBC keeps on changing its shape to come out from the blood vessel and enter the site of infection. So what is the function of the WBCs? Function of the WBCs, if I am talking about, function of the WBCs, what should you write? Function of the WBC is to give us defense. These are always known as the soldiers of the cell, soldiers of the body. WBCs are always known as the soldiers of our body. Why? They provide defense. But what are the two methods that they provide defense? Either they can eat up the germs from the site of infection. So how do they provide defense? Number one, by eating up the germs, pathogens, microbes. What is this process known as? Phagocytosis. Also, they can release special chemical substances that can give us immunity for a long time, known as antibodies. Okay? So what am I saying? What is the job of the WBCs? They are the soldiers of the body. They give us defense. But how do they give us defense? Either they will eat up the germs straight away, or they will keep on releasing chemical substances in the blood so that we remain immune from so many diseases for a long period of time. So this you should know, that they can go for phagocytosis or release antibodies. Lastly, platelets. Did you ever come across the concept of platelets? What do the platelets do in our body? What do the platelets do in our body? In here also I am showing you the platelets. The platelets are these type of cells, small, very small.
And we get hurt like the dry
When we suffer from a cut, all of your experience, when you suffer from a cut, a wound, you had suffered from an injury, and after that what happens? There's a small black colored patch and the dry skin falls off, and in another 2-3 weeks time that skin is absolutely normal.
But after the platelets are removed, then there is a dry substance like this. What
This
is that?
No, that is because at that time maybe the process of clotting you did not allow happen properly. Quite a number of times when the clotting is immature, इसको soft clot बोलते हैं. If during that time, if you are no scratching it off and removing the skin. Quite a number of times, what will happen? The process of clotting will not happen properly. Proteins will not be accumulating there. Then that type of a scar may remain. But that also with application of certain type of ointments and etc. it may go. But now that is a different part. Now the process, if I'm talking about, the regular process is what? When the soft clot is there, we should not keep on peeling and disturbing. After the entire process is done, the absolute clot is over, remove the clot or the clot normally falls off, then such type of scar will not happen. So what is the function for platelets? You should write. Platelets ka kya function? Process of clotting of the blood. Clotting meaning oozing out of the blood ko stop karna. Whenever we suffer from a cut, the blood is oozing out. But within a few minutes, oozing to band ho gaya. But that skin which is cut, that should repair. Which cells help in that repair process? The platelets. So function likhenge, it helps in clotting of the blood. It helps in clotting. Where clotting? Inside the body? No, clotting should not happen inside the body. Clotting should always happen at the site of injury. Helps in clotting at the site of injury. At the site of injury. So what are the three cells we have been talking about just now? The three types of blood cells. RBCs, what is their function? I have not written, you already know. Exchange of respiratory gases, that is the major function of the RBCs. WBCs provide defense. Number 3, platelets. What is the function of the platelets? The function of the platelets is to help in blood clotting. How much of the blood do we have in our body? 20%. 70% blood. How much of the blood? Any idea? How much of the blood do we have in our body in liters? In milliliters, if you have to say. How much of the?
20.
Huh?
20.
5 to 6 liters. So we have got 5 to 6 liters of blood in our body. And this 5 to 6 liters of blood constantly helps in transporting all the different type of substances, nutrients, hormones, ions, proteins, etc. Next, we are going to learn what is lymph and what about its function. What is lymph? Now, the blood vessels and the lymph. So, since now we are talking about how would the blood keep on moving? The last 1 or 2 more concepts that we are going to discuss today would be, what is the relation between the blood and the lymph? What is the relation? I talk about any part of our body. Say suppose I talk about the hand and then the blood vessels are there. So this blood vessel is carrying the blood, and if I talk about a fine blood vessel, the blood is here, but this blood vessel has got small pores on its wall. So what is happening? This blood which is running in the blood vessel, because the blood vessel has got small pores, a small amount of plasma. What is plasma? The liquid part of the blood. So since the blood is moving at a great force, small amount of the plasma only will leak out. Only small amount of the plasma is leaking out. The cells will not come out. The cells are not squeezing out at all. They are not oozing out at all. What is oozing out? Because small pores are there, only the plasma. So this plasma, which does not contain RBC, so definitely it is colorless. So what is the composition of this fluid which is coming out, oozing out from the blood vessels, normally everywhere in the arms, in the neck, in the legs? This plasma, which also has along with it few WBCs. So I am saying that this blood vessel, which is having 3 types of cells, RBCs, WBCs, platelets, but in the course of circulation, hamesha, only the plasma and few WBCs can come out. Why? Because of this special property of the WBCs. It can squeeze in through the minutest pore also. So, छोटे से छोटे pore से the WBC can come out. क्यों? It can change its shape. That's why. RBCs will not come out. Platelets will not come out. So, what is this fluid? This fluid now is running over the tissues. क्योंकि blood vessel के आसपास, if I have to think, blood vessel के आसपास क्या होनी चाहिए? Tissues. Where will the blood vessels be present in our body? Definitely over the organs, on the surface of organs, on the surface of tissues of our body. So आसपास कौन सी part of the body we are thinking? We are definitely thinking of tissues now. So this fluid that I understand, which is running over the tissues, what will be the fate of this fluid? Yes, it runs over the tissues. Since it runs over the tissues, this fluid also is known as tissue fluid. Ye fluid, what is it? Blood. But what will happen to this tissue fluid? This tissue fluid will again enter into a sequence of tubes, and this sequence of tubes, what is it known as? This is known as the lymphatic vessels. This is known as lymphatic vessels. What is this fluid now known as? This fluid is known as lymph.
When we get injured, something colorless fluid comes out of the cell.
When you are getting injured, the colorless fluid that is coming out, that is only the plasma. That is not the lymph. The lymph is always in the deeper parts of your body. Unless and until a person is massively injured, lymph kabhi nahi dikhega. So a slight cut, you have got a wound or an injury, and during the process of clotting, also maybe clotting start hua hai, and you are feeling the skin, and then you get to see a yellowish or a colorless fluid. That is all plasma. This is all the plasma of the blood.
So what the which plate?
Colorless. I just now mentioned here, that's why. So when the blood is moving in the blood vessels, normally every time, since the blood vessels have got pores, plasma nikal ke aayega, few WBCs nikal ke aati hai, and then this fluid will pass over the cells and the tissues, enter another system of tubes जो blood vessels के हमेशा parallel present होती है. The lymph vessels are always parallel to the blood vessels. Wherever in the body you think of, the arms, the legs, the neck, the face, wherever. So blood से निकल के plasma WBCs run through the tissues and enter into the lymphatic channels. ये colorless fluid जो है, this is what is known as the lymph. Where will this lymph go and join? The lymph will always go and join a vein later. We are going to study about the vein in the next class. All lymph vessels go and join a vein every time. Here you are supposed to know major three differences between blood and lymph. We'll complete with this today. Finish up this. Write three major. Write on the next part of the chapter head. Write on the head. Transportation we have already started. The first difference, you make a table very fast. Let us complete with this. Difference between blood and lymph. Difference between blood and lymph. Difference between blood and lymph, likho. The first point you write, blood is write down point number 1 and 2. You write from here, you can write from here. Write point number 1 and 2. Write point number 1 and 2. The composition only you should know, the circulatory concept only you should know, that is more than enough for you. Number 1, 2 and number 6. Number 1, 2 and number 6, उसमें खाली एक ही word, एक दो word add करना है, that's it. लिखो fast, we'll complete with this. Number 1, 2 and 6. Lymph is colorless. Why it is colorless? Because there is no pigment in it. Blood is red in color because RBCs hai, hemoglobin hai. The second point I had asked you to write, what is its composition? Lymph is only the plasma and the WBC. Blood has plasma and 3 types of cells, RBCs, WBCs and platelets. Next, you straight away go to number 6. All this is not necessary for you. Go to straight away number 6. The flow of the lymph in the lymphatic vessels is very slow. The flow of the lymph in the lymphatic vessel is slow. Here, the flow of the blood in the blood vessel is fast. Just add karo yahan pe. Due to और कितना पिक्चर लेगा ड्यू टू द कॉन्ट्रैक्शन ऑफ द हार्ट खाली ये चीज ऐड करना है यहाँ पे ड्यू टू कॉन्ट्रैक्शन ऑफ द हार्ट क्यों फास्ट है ब्लड फ्लो ड्यू टू यहाँ पे ऐड करना है ड्यू टू कॉन्ट्रैक्शन ऑफ द हार्ट ड्यू टू कॉन्ट्रैक्शन ऑफ द हार्ट डन Done, all of you? Okay, we'll continue again.
सुनना कोई तुम्हारे स्कूल में ये व्यापार तुम्हारे हो तो बच्चे लोग कोई
तो भी थोड़ा धीरे हो जाएगा ना